lecturer. I am teacher Chris from CKL Pads. Today, we are going to be looking at two very commonly confused words, and they are whose and whose. Now, as you can tell, they sound exactly the same. These words are called homonyms, and though they sound the same, they don't look the same, and they don't mean the same thing. Alright? And so it's really important to know the difference and to write the correct one when you need it. Homonyms matter more when you're writing because, as I said, they sound the same. So when you say it and when you're speaking, nobody can tell if you think you're using this word or this word. But when you're writing, it shows. Alright? You don't want to make these mistakes because very often, these homonyms are very basic. Let's get started first with a little pre-quiz. Okay, so let's look at these 4 sentences or questions, and you tell me whether you think we should be using this one or this one. And later, I will explain to you exactly what the difference is and how can know. But let's see if you're using them correctly right now. So number 1, do we say whose ballpen is this? You want to ask whose ballpen is this? Do we say the first one or the second one? How do we write that? Okay, so the correct answer is this one. Right now, I'm not going to explain why. I'm going to explain that later. Okay? Right now, let's just see if you're getting them right. Number 2. Do you know who's giving the lecture? So do we use the first one or the second one? So here we should use this one, whose. Alright. Number 3. Whose is present today? So do we use the first one or the second one? We use this first one. Alright. And number 4. The band whose music I like is on stage. So which one do we use there? Here we use this one. Alright. So how did you do with that short quiz? Did you get them all right? Did you get wrong? And if you got them right, do you know for sure that was right one? Or were you guessing a little bit? Maybe a little bit of both. So now let's make sure exactly that you understand by seeing what are the difference between these two homonyms. Now let's look at our two homonyms, whose and whose. So again, homonyms are words that they sound the same, right? Whose, but the spelling is different and the meaning is different. So let's understand exactly what they are and how we use them. So the first one, whose, W-H-O apostrophe S, is a construction. That means that it is a shortened form of something. So when we write whose like that, it could mean who is or who has. And we're going to understand that in our examples. So let's look at those. So we could say, who's there? Usually when someone knocks on the door, then we might answer if we're inside. Who's there? It means who is outside, right? So here, what does it stand for? Who is there? But we say, who's there? Alright, let's look at the next example. Who's driving? Again, what does it stand for here? Who is driving? Alright, and the last example, who's been to USA? That means who has visited the USA. Here it's who's been. We have a present perfect here. Who has been to the USA? Alright? So as I said, this who apostrophe S can only be, so if that makes sense in your sentence, that if you write it out, then you would use who is or who has. Then use this form. Alright? Now let's go to the other side. This one, whose, W-H-O-S-E, is also a homonym. It's also a pronoun like this one, and it can be also be used sentences and questions. However, it has completely different meaning. This word is the possessive form of who or which. What does it mean? We use this word to say that something belongs to someone or refers to someone. Alright? For example, whose phone is ringing? So we're talking about the phone, and we say whose phone. In other words, who does that phone belong to? Whose phone is ringing? And here, whose house are we going to? Again, whose what house? Whose house? The house of what are we going to? That's the kind of what you're asking. Let's look at another example. These are the passengers whose flights were cancelled. So again, we're using this form and not whose, W-H-O apostrophe S, because we're not trying to say in any of these sentences who is or who has. So when you're not sure, break it up and say, am I trying to say who is or who has? If yes, then use this form. But if your answer is no, then you're going to use that form. Alright? So that's the basic explanation. Let's do one last quick quiz to make sure that you understand this. Number 1. Did you find out whose bags these are? Is it the first one or the second one? So here it is whose. Okay? Did you find out whose bags these are? So you're asking kind of who do these bags belong to. So we're saying whose bags are these. Next, number 2. Who's leading the conference? Number 1 or number 2? Which one do we use here? So here it is the first one, because when we say it out, when we break up the contraction, it would be who is leading the conference. Okay? Number 3. Who's had breakfast? You don't just say it, but you probably type it on your phone. Alright? So what would you write here? Here, it would be the first one. Because here, what does it stand for? Whose? Who has had breakfast? Remember, I said whose. This one can be who is or who has. So here it is who has had breakfast. Okay? Number 4. Whose computer is this? Somebody forgot it. Whose computer is this? So which one do we choose? The first one or the second one? It is this one, because we are really asking who does this computer belong to, right? And whenever we're talking possession, we need to use this form. And the last one, who's the teacher? So what would that be? It would be this one, because we are asking who is the teacher. Alright? So, I hope this has given you a good idea of what exactly these two homonyms mean, how to use them, how to spell them, how to write them, and how to choose most of all which one is right in the right context. Okay? And homonyms are very important because they're very basic words, very often like this whose, your, and so on. Okay? So thanks very much for watching. All the very best with your English. Once again, I am Teacher Chris saying learning English is fun. Please do not forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the bell. Bye for now. Cheers!